During a high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her, it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Dawn DiStefano. Hi Dawn, how are you doing today?
Good to see you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the podcast with me. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what inspired you to take the position of being the president and CEO of Square One?
I am very inspired by young children, and we have lots of those here at Square One. So when I arrived here about 8 years ago, Joan Kagan was the CEO, and I shared with her right from the beginning that I was interested in someday being the CEO of Square One, which takes a little bit of courage, because Joan could have informed me that she was proudly in that job and didn't have any plans to go anywhere. But I also knew that I had to take a risk, because not sharing my plan would have made it more difficult for me to get the experience that I wanted to get before she made any plans to retire. So I'm inspired by children, and I have found the courage, and maybe it's because kids give me the courage to do things that make me feel uncomfortable, that I was inspired to let that person know that this was my plan.
So how were you able to find the courage to make sure that you let everybody know what your goal was?
That is a tough one. Well, I am in my 50s, Michael, so it took me a little bit of time. My instinct early on in my career, I was very much a people pleaser. And so I spent a lot of time trying to be perfect, and I spent a lot of time trying to make other people happy. Then I realized a little bit later in my career that that is impossible. There's no such thing as perfection. And in my quest to be so perfect, I actually wasn't paying attention to the learning that needed to happen. So I think I built the courage over time to be wrong. I learned that if I made mistakes, sometimes it's a better way to learn your lesson. You just hope the mistake isn't so bad that it ruins everything. But I think part of my leadership journey was learning the hard way on some things.
So being a leader, what were some ways that you were able to develop those skills to become a better leader?
Great question. Well, first of all, I am the oldest of 4 girls. I have 3 younger sisters. And so I often say in talks that I give that I practice my leadership style on the 3 of them. Some of those things went very well and some didn't. So they taught me a lot of the core components of what I still keep very near to my heart in my leadership today, which is try to listen. You can lead and listen. I find that as a leader, sometimes I do better following. I set the path. This is where we're going. And then I get behind everybody. And I would do that with my sisters. I would say, here's what we're doing. We're going to go to Forest Park today. We're going to go to the duck pond. So I would set the course. So I would be clear about our intentions. This is where we're going. We've got our supplies. But then as we walked through the park, I would get behind them to make sure that nobody veered off into the road, that everybody was walking in the direction to the pond. So I think when I look at my leadership style here at Square One, I often do the same thing. I'll set the course with a lot of input from everybody else. So I don't set the course by myself. I'll set the course with some key advisors that I have that I know are listening to the people who receive our service, but also work here. And then kind of get out of the way and trust people to do their good work and sort of get behind them to say, okay, where do I need to fill in the gaps? Are we missing a resource that would make it easier for someone? I'll go get that. So I think a good leader knows how to lead from the front, but also knows how to get behind everybody and trust and allow people to grow and do what they do best.
So I've noticed so far in every interview, everybody has always said that listening is an important part to being a good leader. Yeah. So why is that?
Because we just don't know everything. We don't. I think as leaders, it takes a pretty big ego to think that I've got what it takes to lead this company. I must think pretty highly of myself that I've got the skill set to do this. And so with that ego and with that confidence comes sometimes the mistake I'll make, which is I know best. I've done the most research. I know where we're going. I want to set my path, only to realize that I have 150 people that work here at Square One that actually have more information than I could ever hold myself. And so I think leaders are oftentimes full of confidence and they want to share their knowledge and their journey, but that doesn't allow for someone else to then speak and share their truth. So I have to remind myself at all times that I'm going to learn more by just listening.
So being a leader and being able to have the environment to a point where people feel like they're able to speak out and add their opinions, how are you able to build a team that? Yeah.
That's a great question. So, I brought my sticky notes because these are the things that are taped on my monitor at all times. And one of the things that might be a little different than other CEOs, and you might have heard this, oftentimes companies refer to their culture as family. We spend more time sometimes at work than we do with our own family. So it's easy to fall into that where you think, my coworkers become like my siblings or my cousins. We celebrate things like marriages and births and deaths together like a family. But I have a sticky note on my desk that reminds me a company is not a family. Families love unconditionally. CEOs don't have the luxury to love unconditionally because you have to potentially fire somebody. That's not unconditional love, right? But you can have a culture that embodies similar things to a family. So a family creates an environment where you feel like you belong, where you feel warmth, you feel welcomed, and you feel comfortable to share your thoughts and views, even if they're different than other people, right? I go to my kitchen table at my mother's and I feel like I have to be respectful, but even if I don't agree with what my mother's saying, I can speak out. That's the type of family-like environment that we have here at Square One that I try very hard to lead and support. But I also need to remind people that we have a job to do here. And so sometimes those habits of family where we kick back or we lose our sense of professional dialogue because we get too comfortable as a family, we have to remind ourselves that we are in the business of serving others, and therefore we have to speak a certain way. We have to treat each other a certain way. And so that's one of those ways that I've learned to set my expectations, but then listen to people as they try to learn what that feels like.
So how are you able to, maybe somebody comes and might have a bad day. How are you able to make sure that they leave with being positive?
Well, the perfectionist in me, Michael, would want everyone to end their day at Square One feeling positive or at least hopeful, right? I'm having a bad day, but I'm leaving work today feeling optimistic that tomorrow's going to be a better day. The older Dawn, the 50-plus-year-old Dawn now realizes that, number one, I can't control other people's emotions, but I can control the conditions in the environment that people enter into, how they interact with others, by setting my expectations, and then giving people another chance. So today, if you arrived in my office today, Michael, and you are having a bad day, first of all, if you are in a management position here at Square One, in addition to my leadership, I tell people you need to listen and you need to look. People's faces and their expressions and their body language will often tell you something different than what they're saying. So I might say, good morning, Michael, and you might say, good morning, Dawn, and it might be a perfectly fine good morning. But I can tell that you're not smiling when you said it. You're looking kind of down. My rule of thumb is I do one more question. Michael, it's really good to see you today. Actually, I haven't seen you in a while. If you have time today, can you stop by? Nothing worse to me than saying to you in the moment as we're passing each other, Michael, what's wrong? First of all, that implies something is wrong with you. There might be nothing wrong. You might be distracted. So it sets the stage that something's wrong. It puts the responsibility on you to then correct me. So I find that putting a little space and distance allows me to then interact. And so you'll stop by later that day and I'll just ask, I just want to check in. How are things going? Find some easy way to chat. And so usually, because I work really hard to build trusting relationships with staff especially, you might share, I'm just really upset. You know, my car broke down coming to work today and I needed my car to go do my job and I couldn't figure it out. And I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, so I might do a quick brainstorm with you. What are your options? Let's just quickly scan out your options. And I think by being a partner in that problem solving, we now share that. I need you to be able to do your job. You need to be able to do your job. I don't own the problem, but I'm part of the problem solving with you. And so I think a lot of people then exit my space. Maybe they still have a car that's broken down. They still have to find the money to fix it, but they now have a partner to help them figure out what the next steps might be. So you might not fully turn the day around and have a good day, but you're not alone. And I think loneliness is what hurts a lot of people.
So you said that you like to build trust. So like, how are you able to build trust with somebody to the point where they're able to express their feelings to you?
That is a great question. I learned the hard way. Again, this isn't a family. My children, I was privileged to have them born to me. They were born trusting me. They trusted I would change their diaper. They trusted I would feed them when they were hungry. This isn't a family. So I don't believe that that my staff have to earn my trust. I believe I have to earn their trust. So, because I have all the power, I'm the one that signs the checks. I'm the one that decides what job they have. So I think people with the most power are the ones that have to do more of the work to earn that trust. And so whenever we have a new staff person who I just hugged in the hallway and saw in her office, the way that I go about building trust is I'll pop in. I popped in, I said, how's your first day going? This is so exciting. Stop by my office. I wanna just have a quick chat later. But really the deep level of trust comes in when people can tell me things that they might think that I might not agree with. I've made a mistake, Dawn. So the fact that they can admit they made a mistake and that I don't get angry and that we problem solve together earns a little bit of trust. Someone might tell me something that's going on with their family. My mom is sick and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to go. A lot of leaders, because they store a lot of information and have a lot of confidence, will say, oh, Michael, I've got a great connection with a doctor. I'm going to have that doctor give you a call. But then your day goes on and you forget to call your connection and your employee wonders, did she even hear me? right? And so now she's not going to trust me so much to come and tell me what else is going on because I didn't follow through with what I promised I said I would do. And so that I carry around a little notebook because I'm getting older and I can't remember all the promises I make. And that was another mistake learned. I had promised someone I would do something, I didn't follow up. And later on was that employee shared, like, well, you know, I think you're just really busy. I shared with you that one time, but nothing ever came of it. I thought, oh my gosh, I completely forgot. It wasn't that I didn't do it, I forgot. So now I carry around a little junky notebook where I scribble down things if I say things, because trust comes with that proven follow-up. Again, I might not have all the answers, but it's better to go back to that person and say, Michael, I know we talked about your mom last week, and I'm having a heck of a time connecting with the doctor that I thought I could, but I'm going to keep trying. She might say, you know what, my mom's feeling much better. I don't think I need it anymore. So I didn't follow through on exactly what I thought I was going to, but I cared enough to remember to go back and follow up. And admit that I couldn't do what I thought I could do.
So you talked about problem solving like quite a bit so far. So what are some ways to be able to be a better problem solver?
That's a great question. So one of my weaknesses, it's okay to talk about mistakes in your podcast, right? There's no perfectionism here. Okay, good. So one of the mistakes that I've made is I very quickly go to problem solving. The problem with swift problem solving is I don't often allow myself enough time to listen to the problem. So I quickly want to make you feel better. It makes me uncomfortable to know that you're sad or that you don't feel good or you're upset about your job. So I want to quickly solve it. So again, another little sticky note on my minder is patience. Take a step back. All right, let's unpack the problem first. Sometimes even unpacking the problem, someone feels better because they're getting it all out of their mind and body. We write it down on a piece of paper. That way, the problem solving is more effective. And so oftentimes, I try to solve a problem too quick, and the younger me solved the problem for you. And then people, again, that's the way we hold on to power. So by me not giving you a piece of my power and allowing you to go solve for yourself, but be there to support you as you go through it, it doesn't elevate everybody else. So in this, older version of myself, if you came to me with a problem, I would say, okay, let's take a deep breath. And sometimes I'm honest. If you ask my staff, sometimes I'm more than honest. I'll say, I really want to jump to a solution right now, but I want to understand the problem first. And so we'll unpack that problem and then brainstorm some solutions. But to me, problems are magical opportunities shrouded in the uncomfortableness of a problem. But oftentimes, problems open doors. I didn't think that was a possibility. It's always easy to lead when things are going great. I used to say that to my kids all the time. It's great to be a great person on a great day when everything's going well. That's wonderful. That's also easy. The tough part is, and to me, the true test of your character is when everything is going wrong. And that, to me, has been the patience that I've had to build. So I've got to stop. I have to listen. Sometimes the solution is to do nothing. To do nothing. Just pause. But sometimes the solution is to take quick action. And so that's kind of, I enjoy problem solving these days, as long as it's not a life or death situation. Then I'm a little uncomfortable with that.
So we talked about how you're able to help other people when they might be having a bad day, but how are you able to help yourself when you might come in like not feeling like the best?
That's a great question. I think a lot of times leaders like to hide, right? So Natalise is my trusted person up front. She greets me every morning. She checks on me during the day. She helps me with my projects. I don't think, again, I hold the bulk of the power here at Square One. It is not for me to walk through the door and say to Natalise, I am having a heck of a bad day. It is your job to help fix how I'm feeling today. At the same time, if I walk through the door with a scowl on my face, I have a certain way of coming in the morning. You probably have already picked up. I am an annoying morning person. It's annoying. I know, it's so annoying. But I wake up really happy. And so I had to learn how to kind of dial that down because that annoys a lot of people. But when I come in the morning, there's a certain way I say good morning. There have been a couple mornings where I've arrived less than my happy self. If I don't explain that to Natalise in a very quick way, she may think she did something wrong. And so I think as leaders, especially those of us that are expressive leaders, leaders that are happy, that have that contagious optimism, that constantly want to motivate people, on the days that you're not doing it, it is important to let people know, I am having one of those days. First of all, that tells people it's okay to have a bad day. Dawn's having a bad day. So I own it. And then I try to mitigate harm. So if I feel like my mood is going to impact other people, then I take the initiative to look at my calendar and say, I think I'm going to move a couple of meetings because I don't think I'm my best self today. And it's not fair to put them in a room with me. I'm not going to be a good problem solver. So I take that extra step to try to save people from, again, doing unintentional harm. So I think setting the mood, understanding that I might be having a great day, but if other people aren't, then that can be kind of annoying. And if I'm having a bad day, it's not for everybody to fix me. It's nobody else's job but mine to deal with my emotions, but to let people know.
So how are you able to maybe you make a decision that's I don't really like this. How are you able to fix it to make sure it's going to the right direction?
That's a good one. So I have this little thing that I do in my mind that's called worst case scenario. So whenever I have decisions, and if they're small decisions, I don't spend too much time doing worst case scenario. But in the case of Square One, I was approached by a company that said, we really want you to provide childcare to our staff. And I thought, what a great opportunity. Now, part of me, because I like opportunity for growth, I like opportunity to earn more revenue, I might go headstrong into, let me come tour your building, let me see what your classrooms look like. I am already implementing this program. But I've trained myself to sit down at my desk and do worst case scenario. If I open this new program, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can use Square One money to open these classrooms and then nobody enrolls. Now what do? I've hired staff, but I don't have children. I'm not generating any revenue. What's the worst case scenario? Well, let me calculate how much is it going to cost me to outfit these rooms? How much is it going to cost me to train those staff before I have customers? And then I can make a decision, okay, the upfront investment is this. Worst case scenario, 3 months. How long can I go before I pull the plug? And so by training myself to go to that dark, scary place that a lot of people want to avoid, I can then back into a better decision. And I'm not so afraid of what could go wrong because I've already forced myself to plan for the worst case scenario.
So when you're able to plan for the worst case scenario, what are some strategies that you use to make sure if this happens, how are you able to solve it?
Well, I think what I do a lot is I write a lot. So if I'm opening a new program, I have notebooks galore because I need to get what's out of my mind onto a piece of paper. Other people are more tech savvy and might put it onto an Excel spreadsheet, but I'm a good old notebook writer. And so I will write the pros and the cons. What is the benefit to opening this new program? What are the downsides to opening this new program? And then I usually figure out what's the financial investment, how much time, and then how much time and money am I willing to lose before I pull the plug? I already know it's easy to figure out what success looks like. But it's really difficult to make the decision to stop what you're doing or to modify what you're doing when it's not working. So I map that out. What does success look like? And then I go to the bottom and say, what is worst case scenario? And then I've got my roadmap. So I might say, I'm going to try to run this program for 3 months. And if I don't have this many children enrolled by 3 months, then I'm going to back out. This is not the right program for square one. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
okay.
Does. How are you able to balance work with family, like the time?
Oh, great question. My family would answer this different than I would. I have balanced work and family very different at different stages of my life. I worked from home often when my kids were babies and toddlers and small children, but then really mapped out a path to be a CEO when my children were a bit older, because I wanted to make sure that I could get to their soccer games, to get to their basketball games and things like that. And so I'm not the best balancing act. But because I'm becoming a better listener the older I get, I listen more to my doctor. So when my doctor says, Dawn, you need to work out a little bit more. You're getting older, you need to move your body. I use those same CEO skills. I map it out. So how do I schedule my day to get what I need? And so I know if I'm going to take care of my health, I have to do it in the morning. I already told you I'm an annoying, happy person. I am up at 5, ready to go. That's a good time of day to go for a walk or go to the gym because I'm up. If I wait till the end of the day when I'm not so happy and I'm tired, I don't do very well. But at the end of the day when I'm not so happy and I'm tired, I'm a pretty good wife and mother because they're very forgiving of me. It's easy for me to be with my family, so that's my family time. Is towards the end of the day. So I think, again, being honest about yourself, what kind of person am I through the day? Balancing work and family for somebody else might be the exact opposite. They might need to sleep more in the morning and go to the gym after work because that's when they're at their best. But if you're not honest about yourself, you will constantly set yourself up for failure, because you'll try to fit that round peg into a square hole where I think, oh, I don't really want to go to the gym at 5 in the morning. I'd rather read a book or have a cup of coffee. But I'm not going to be my best self at the gym at the end of the day. So I think honesty with yourself is a big deal.
So thank you for that. That was actually really good advice that you gave throughout the whole podcast. I really appreciate that.
Oh,
yeah,
thanks,
thank your
Michael.
time.
Thank you. Thank you for valuing what I have to say.
Thank you.
I can't wait to hear, about you. You're doing the CEO thing now.
Thank you.
I'm really excited.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. See you in the next one. Later.